So I now want to introduce to the stage and on Zoom our third and final lightning talk, which is Digital Security and LGBTQIA plus rights in Asia. So we're lucky to have with us Linis Dinco, who is a Strategic Communications Fellow at ILGA Asia. And on Zoom, we have Ajita Banerjie, who is the Research and Policy Officer for ILGA Asia. So welcome both.
Good afternoon. My name is Jane, and I am a storyteller. Fellow activists, I believe that it is imperative that we acknowledge the position of power that we hold. I, personally, am an academic living in Australia, one of the richest countries in the world. I write and speak English, and I work in tech. I go home without worrying if there would be food on my table. And whenever I get invited to symposia like this, I get asked, "Who do you represent, Jane?" I say, I only speak for myself. I cannot represent the community because my struggles are not their struggles, and I cannot represent the struggles of the working class. Our privilege and power must not be used to perpetuate the very system of oppressions that we are trying to fight against. We must confront the difficult truth that our work often fails to adequately address the needs and concerns of the marginalized communities. I believe that as activists, our critique must go beyond posturing and engage with the realities of those who are most vulnerable to capitalist oppression. LGBT individuals in Asia face a wide array of challenges in the digital world, with government surveillance and lack of legal protections being some of the most pressing issues today. In many Asian countries, LGBT individuals are subjected to discrimination and harassment, both online and offline. However, the digital world has become a new battleground for the fight for the liberation of the queer, where the community is often faced with hostile actors, including governments, who seek to suppress our voices and curtail our very freedoms. These challenges are particularly evident in Myanmar, where the LGBT community is facing an increasingly hostile environment. The recent coup in Myanmar has further exposed the authoritarian regime of the military, the Tatmadaw, with severe consequences for the LGBT community. In its relentless pursuit of control and domination, the Tatmadaw in Myanmar is seeking to ban social networking sites such as Facebook, which, as we have seen in recent years, has played a big role in the Burmese society, because for most people in Myanmar, Facebook meant the internet. We've seen that Tatmadaw did it before, way back in 2021, when they found out that political dissenters were using it to organize. This forced people to use VPNs to connect, but the use of VPNs might also be criminalized in the future as part of the cybersecurity law that the Tatmadaw once passed. This bill would give the military regime even more power to access user data, block websites, order internet shutdowns, and prosecute critics. Such measures would severely limit the freedom of expression and the ability of the LGBT community to organize and advocate for their rights. The deliberate restriction of online platforms is not only an attack on free speech, but also on the right of the LGBT communities to exist and express themselves in a safe and secure and supportive environment. By blocking websites and apps, including VPNs, the military regime will effectively cut off the community from the outside world and subjected them to further surveillance and censorship. Fellow activists, The struggle for justice and democracy in Myanmar requires a critical approach, one that centers the needs and the experiences of the working class. To make progress, it is important to amplify the voices of grassroots organizations and civil society groups that work to support these communities. These groups are at the forefront of the struggle against the military, and their voices must be heard and amplified. Building international solidarity networks is critical to supporting the struggles of the working class and the marginalized communities in Myanmar. This involves connecting them with similar struggles around the world and working together to achieve shared goals. Solidarity networks can provide resources, expertise, and support that can strengthen the struggles of the marginalized communities in Myanmar, including the LGBT community. Organizing and mobilizing the working class in Myanmar is essential to resist the military junta and demand the restoration of democracy and human rights, including the rights of the LGBT people. It is important that we prioritize the needs and well-being of this community and center their voices and experience in the struggle for social justice. The struggle for cybersecurity as it relates to LGBT rights is a crucial front in the ongoing struggle against capitalist oppression. As activists, we must demand more resources, develop comprehensive legal protections, and build a network of solidarity and support to protect and empower LGBT individuals in the face of oppressive capitalist society. Only through collective action and collective struggle can we build a more just and equitable future for all. After all, power is an illusion that was concocted to legitimate existing structures in our society. And hopefully, the next World Pride event will be less corporate and more community-based. Thank you.
Ajita, if you want to kick off while we do that, that'd be great.
Yeah, should I begin?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, great. Hello, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be able to join you today. And I'm joining you from New Delhi, India, where it's about 7:30 a.m. So excuse me if I sound very sleepy. Can someone help me with the slides? And can we go to the next slide? Yeah, thank you. All right. So before we dive into the presentation, let's take a quick look at the current legal landscape in Asia in terms of sojourner rights. So as of today, 21 countries criminalize consensual same-sex sexual acts between adults. 17 countries have laws criminalizing or regulating some form of gender expression, including impersonation or cross-dressing. 8 countries retain the death penalty against LGBTIQ persons, out of which 4 countries explicitly prescribe capital punishment. Next slide, please. There's overwhelming evidence to suggest that LGBTIQ persons face a wide range of threats in online spaces, which includes threats that they could be outed to their families or employers or even the state, which could then lead to criminal charges against them. This is only possible due to the legal precarity of LGBTIQ identities in countries that have harsh punitive laws criminalizing LGBTQ persons and their work, because perpetrators of such violence, which includes both state and non-state actors, enjoy absolute impunity, which is why it's absolutely crucial to continue our campaign for complete decriminalization of LGBTIQ identities. Next slide, please. Let's take a look at these 2 cases where digital targeting had offline impact as well in terms of criminal sanctions. The first case is that of a transgender woman from Kuwait who was arrested, imprisoned, and fined under charges of impersonation after her details, pictures, and videos were unlawfully obtained by non-state actors and handed to state actors. The second case is that of a lesbian woman from Iran who was arrested under the charges of spreading corruption on earth for speaking out on social media on the plight of LGBTIQ communities and speaking to international media on the same. She was given the death sentence for the same, and the case is still ongoing with very little information on any forms of custodial torture that she might have faced. Next slide, please. It is important at this stage for us to understand the very real life impact of digital targeting from an access to justice perspective. As those who are arrested are often denied access to lawyers, their phones may be unlawfully confiscated, their activism is often questioned, their association with other movements such as freedom movements are questioned, and they may face custodial violence, sexual assault, and other forms of ill treatment based solely on their SOGIESC identity. Next slide, please. Such targeting in online spaces has led to a chilling effect across our region, where LGBTIQ persons, especially human rights defenders, have had to practice self-censorship. And this has led to a negative impact on the LGBTIQ movement in Asia. This is coming at a time when we have seen a growing assault and pushback on human rights owing to conflict, war, and other crises, especially in Syria, Palestine, Afghanistan, Iran, and Myanmar. Human rights defenders from these regions continue to face aggravated threats, including threats to life, for their engagement in activism in online spaces, especially in occupied territories and countries under authoritarian regimes, where they could be met with physical attacks by security forces. Next slide, please. In order for us human rights defenders to be able to continue our work without facing the threat of arrest or threats to our life, we need accountability mechanisms, both from digital platforms in terms of content moderation and building better, bolder, and more inclusive policies, as well as from the state in terms of repealing discriminatory laws, both direct and indirect, and cultivating an environment where LGBTIQ human rights defenders can operate freely, with dignity and without fear. I will end my remarks here, and I hope that all of us present here will continue to work in solidarity with human rights defenders who are relentlessly working in extremely challenging legal and political contexts to fight for a more democratic, just, and equal world. We stand in solidarity with them. Thank you so much, and I'll be happy to take any questions.